That wouldn't be a world for me. That wouldn't be a world for you. UIC.
Tell them we're gonna be stronger. Together we can make it right. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I. Gonna be stronger together. Time we all just unify. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I. It is a natural right for every human being to be free. Free, so free. So the government is there to protect you and me. UIC objective is to liberate the citizens from colonial bondage, them regulation, them
UIC Liberty TV. Change you can trust.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another edition of UIC Liberty TV. This is Joseph Patterson, and tonight we're going to be talking about part 2 of Lest We Forget. We're going to be going back in time a little bit and looking at, what happened to us a couple of years ago in terms of the so-called pandemic and a number of actions which were taken by our government and governments around the world. We're going to talk about the implications of these. We're going to look specifically at what it means for us in the near future. I have coming on shortly Dr. Michael Harvey, who is a chiropractor, a student of the whole matter of virus and the pandemic and plandemic, as some people call it. And he's going to share with us some interesting insights on the subject, a little bit of the history behind it, and then some key points we need to watch out for and be careful about as we enter into, going into another year. I want to welcome all of you who are joining us from wherever you are. I see For the Truth On and Good Vibes and others coming on. So stay tuned for what we're going to hear from Dr. Harvey. But before we listen to Dr. Harvey, I want us to listen to somebody many of you know for a minute or two as he gives a very short perspective on where we're heading. Take a listen.
Left-wing lunatics are trying very hard to bring back COVID lockdowns and mandates with all of their sudden fear-mongering about the new variants that are coming. Gee whiz, you know what else is coming? An election. They want to restart the COVID hysteria so they can justify more lockdowns, more censorship, more illegal drop boxes, more mail-in ballots, and trillions of dollars in payoffs to their political allies heading into the 2024 election. Does that sound familiar? These are bad people. These are sick people we're dealing with. But to every COVID tyrant who wants to take away our freedom, hear these words: we will not comply. So don't even think about it. We will not shut down our schools. We will not accept your lockdowns. We will not abide by your mask mandates. And we will not tolerate your vaccine mandates. They rigged the 2020 election, and now they're trying to do the same thing all over again by rigging the most important election in the history of our country, the 2024 election, even if it means trying to bring back COVID. But they will fail because we will not let it happen. When I'm back in the White House, I will use every available authority to cut federal funding to any school, college, airline, or public transportation system that imposes a mask mandate or a vaccine mandate. Thank you very much.
So there you have it. One person telling us that they're going to bring back the whole, what do you call it now? The crisis. They're going to bring a crisis on and seek to take away our freedoms once again. They've never stopped trying to take away our freedoms. It's just that sometimes it's not very obvious. But before we hear what Dr. Harvey has to say on the subject, I want you to also hear what is going on in Jamaica as it relates to this very, very scary and challenging aspect to our lives. Listen to what they have to say on the subject. This is one of our news clippings on the matter. Let's take a listen.
Welcome back to Primetime News.
And a special welcome to those of you watching on onespotmedia.com.
First up this evening, the Health Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton, has confirmed that there is a worrying spike in COVID-19 cases across the island.
He gave the confirmation during a statement to the House of Representatives today.
As Sandy Williams reports, the minister is putting Jamaicans on alert for other respiratory illnesses that have been circulating.
Jamaica's positivity rate for COVID-19 has increased. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton said the spike was noticed following recent tests. However, there are some anomalies with the number of positive cases detected.
Generally speaking, remains relatively low. Over the past 4 weeks, there have been an average of 87 confirmed cases. The number of cases are not increasing. The average 7-day positivity rate is about 22%. I know there's 17 on the statement, but it's actually about 22%. Now, this is clearly higher than what we would like to see. Ideally, of course, none, but on average about 5 or so %.
Dr. Tufton has attributed the uptick in COVID-19 cases to the Omicron variant, which is highly transmissible. But opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Maurice Guy, is concerned about the accuracy of the data.
In your report here, you indicated, and I will read, the last batches of genomic sequencing done on samples collected in March and April showed its subvariants XBB .1.5 and BQ.1.1 were most prevalent. Minister, we have many genomic sequencing machines in this country. We ought not to be having samples reports that are still dated from samples in March and April. We are in the month of June now. Genomic sequencing takes about not more than 5 days to get back a result. So I would have expected the minister to come and tell the House that the latest genomic sequencing that we have at the ministry was for some time like last week or the week before, not 2 months ago.
I take the point. I will say that we do have current data, and we have current testing numbers right up to July. In fact, I'm looking here at UI's numbers. Up to July, 49 tested, 6 positive, 43 negative, 12%. June 65, 16. June was 25% positivity. So the University of the West Indies, persons who come in to A&E, they are automatically tested once and they have up to current.
Since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, Jamaica has recorded a total of 155,455 confirmed cases and 3,586 COVID-19 related deaths. COVID-19 aside, according to the health minister, there is also an uptick in influenza cases. It's why Dr. Tufton is urging Jamaicans to take precautions.
Admissions for lower respiratory tract infection, pneumonia that is, were higher than expected in the last 2 weeks. We usually see about 100 to 120 cases each week. We are now seeing a slight increase with numbers up to about 124 cases or so, 24, 25 each week. So slight uptick in pneumonia. Again, the public is reminded that persons at both extremes of age, persons with comorbidities susceptible to severe respiratory infections caused by many different viruses, same precautions that are advised for COVID-19.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, you heard. Basically, the narrative is being set to bring us back to the future, where we're coming from, to create another situation where we're once again going to be told that we have to be locked down and wearing masks. And it appears to be heading to be around the election time. We have elections in the US, which is 2024, into the same period for Jamaica as well, 24-25 elections. Dr. Harvey, welcome to the program. Good to see you on. How do you see all of this new development? What do you think of what you're hearing from Mr. Trump and from our health minister?
Mr. Trump. Now, I think all of us at one time or another have been a little bit taken in by Mr. Trump. Of course, a lot of other people absolutely hate Trump for whatever real or imagined reasons. But here's the thing. I like what Trump's saying. There won't be any COVID-23. But let's not forget, Trump's the guy who kicked off Operation Warp Speed Trump's the guy who got everybody vaccinated initially. And so how do you trust him? This is the problem for the American people and for us too. We're always looking for a Messiah. In America, Trump's not the Messiah. Now you have Bobby Kennedy running. He's against all these injections, these bioweapons, but he supports climate change. You may as well tell them to roll up their sleeve and commit suicide that way. Why is the climate changing? Of course, they mean global warming. Why is it getting too warm? Too many people. There's where the vaccines come in. Don't you see? It's global genocide. They have to convince us, first of all, that there's a real boogeyman out there that we have to be afraid of, right? And I want to come forward a moment now to the positions of both of the so-called health leaders of the JLPNP, Christopher Tufton and Morris Guy. I mean, in a fair world, those two men would be answering charges of treason against their people right now. What shocks me, our own Ministry of Health is sticking by the argument that the PCR is the gold standard for diagnosis. And I sent those clowns Dr. Kary Mullis's video. He's the guy who invented the PCR. He won the Nobel Prize for it. And he says you can't use it to diagnose any disease. It's not a diagnostic test. Our government will not address that obvious fact. So this is what we're up against, a global cabal run by the eugenicists. We have to know who these players are. Bill Gates is the first name that comes to mind. Well, who is Bill Gates? He's the son of Bill Gates Sr. Who's Bill Gates Sr.? Well, he was the CEO of Planned Parenthood way back in the 1930s. And what was Planned Parenthood really all about? If you really want to talk about what it's about getting rid of black people. And that's why in America you have Planned Parenthood facilities in every ghetto in America, exterminating as many black babies as they can. Now, Bill Gates Sr. was also the lawyer for the Rothschilds. We don't talk about those people enough, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, because we're afraid to talk about our owners. Slavery never went away. The same monsters own us today, except the game has changed, hasn't it, Mr. Patterson? Today, you and I, black and white, are the colors of slavery. And that's the only power we're going to ever have to stop these shenanigans. Now, I see you're putting up a poster there on the left side of our screen. And I'm going to kind of look over to my left a bit. If you still want to keep me on camera, that's fine. But I'm on my laptop, and behind me and behind my laptop is my PC with the various pictures and other items that I want to talk about. So let's take a look at this picture. This is a very important picture because it gives you a peek into the brain trust that controls this planet. So who do we see here? We see Barbara Walters, the well-known news commentator, and to her right, Brooke Astor, one of the 13, the Astor family, one of the 13 Illuminati bloodlines that control all commerce on the earth on behalf of the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. Look who else is in the picture. George Soros. Is there a more evil human being on this planet today than George Soros? Your viewers are invited to go online and look at the sordid history of this man. Over the last 40 years, he is all about death and mayhem. He is the personification of Satan, the devil on earth. Leonore Annenberg, the Annenberg family. Walter Annenberg, who owned the Philadelphia Inquirer, was also the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. Way back in the 1960s, I actually worked for his family when I was working for the Philadelphia Inquirer, but I didn't know his sordid history way back in those days. And you see Judy Woodruff, and look who's next to Judy Woodruff. Anthony Fauci, Anthony the Science Fauci. These are the poster children of evil on this planet. Tom Brokaw, he was used by them, right? And you see Bill Gates Sr. in the background, and David Rockefeller's head is largely hidden. Bill Moyers, the news guy, and of course Ted Turner. Ted Turner thinks we should have no more than 500 million people on Earth. These are the eugenicists. They see us as useless eaters, and they're running the show. The only way we have a chance at beating these people, if we can open our eyes and see who's doing this to us and what they're doing. Because if you're not looking at the alternative media, if you're not looking at all those expose videos up on BitChute, if all you're doing is watching television, you are a sitting duck. We all know people who've died from the bioweapon forced injections, don't we? And I get choked up. I think about my friends who have died, and I'm really angry about it, okay? And I'm trying to control that today. But
Yeah.
it's hard for me to talk about when you know people who trusted and they rolled up their sleeves and now they're dead. And if I know them, we all know them. Our friends, our family members are dying. We have to wake up. Sorry for being emotional.
No, I understand.
We got to wake up.
You know, it's unfortunate, Dr. Harvey, that, you know, the vast majority of us are busy just trying to exist, that we have no time, or we choose not to take any time to become aware of what's going on. And so we're like lambs being led to the slaughter. I see people getting very excited right now about a pending election, and they're putting on, you know, their green or their orange. I saw it today, to my great dismay, a very, very popular musician, somebody that's very, very popular, who's very influential, putting on his orange shirt and going on stage and supporting, you know, the same old trick of switching between these two deceptive, lying, destructive colonial parties who are a part of exactly what you're talking about, either as unintelligent house slaves following the directives of their masters, or intentionally engaging in a game that they believe they're going to win and the rest of us are going to lose. They don't care about the real impact on people's lives. But Dr. Harvey, continue to walk us through the history now of how we got here. Um, Take us a bit through some of the history and bring us up to present day.
Yeah. Once you know the history, it all becomes so apparent, right? In 1912, the Rockefeller Foundation merged the natural practice of medicine with the pharmaceutical industry, giving us what we have today. Side effects, and more side effects, and more drugs with side effects to treat effects. We are human guinea pigs for the illicit profits of pharma. When you think of pharma, you think of the Rockefellers, because they are the ones that give that industry life. There's so much to go over. It's hard to cover it all in the few minutes that we have today. I would like your viewers to make a note of this website, whatreallyhappened.com. All one word, whatreallyhappened.com. That's where I go every morning when I wake up to see what's going on in the world ever since September 11th, 2001. Whatreallyhappened.com. And most of the articles I send out come from that, as well as people from all over the world who are sending me articles on the COVID scam. So Rockefeller medicine, they take over the natural, what you might have called naturopathy back in the early 1900s. And they made it a service where they make billions off of selling us toxic drugs, and they control the narrative. And one of the reasons they control the narrative, we continue to miss the hidden hand of psychiatry, which was behind all of the mind control paradigms. What if you discover for yourself that the three greatest frauds ever perpetrated against humankind are the law, religion, and medicine? Those are the controls on body, mind, and spirit, and they have us on lockdown, if you catch my drift. You know how the politicians and some of these health experts like to give you this, you know what it is? It's the all-seeing eye of Horus. That's who we worship when we go to church on Saturday and Sunday. We think we're worshiping God. The way they've done this to our minds, how do we begin to unravel it, right? So on the back of the dollar bill, the top of the pyramid, the all-seeing eye of Horus, Horus, H-O-R-U-S, like H-O-U-R-S, hours, and start to think in terms of the zodiac and the eons or ages, and we're coming up on the age of Aquarius. What do all of these ages circle? They circle the sun. We have been conned. We all believe in the sun. That's our God. There is no other God, but we have other names we call him, don't we? And we go on Saturdays and Sundays and sometimes other days, and we praise our sun God. Now, I know I'm getting into some really heavy stuff and probably stepping on a few toes. Don't believe me.
Sorry.
Start
You
doing
you said the law, religion, and what?
and medicine.
Medicine. So
Those
basically, what you're saying is a bunch of people messed with the law, religion, and medicine to pretty much get us into a state where they can control us and have their way with us by teaching us things that mislead us. So it leads us in a path that they want, not in the path of righteousness, but in the path that they want to take us into. So basically, medicine, for example, you end up choosing things that are actually not helping you, but are rather helping the pharmaceutical industry to maintain you as a source of revenue while you're getting sicker and sicker and sicker, for example. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, when you look at America, the most heavily vaccinated country in the world, American school children are required to get 84 injections or they can't go to school.
84.
In Jamaica, 84, and in Jamaica, it's 50. Our babies have to get 50 injections or they can't get an education. You talk about an extortion racket. And look at the numbers, right? In Jamaica now, 1 in 68 of our babies are now autistic. We know it's from the vaccines because industry whistleblowers have come forward. In America, it's 1 in 36. And I mentioned Bobby Kennedy. He was all pro-vaccine until 5 of his 7 children got sick from the vaccines. Now he's over on our side of the fence. He's trying to wake people up. We could just get him to change his view on climate change. He might be a potential messiah. But what it really comes down to, we all have to, when it comes to this whole medical tyranny, we got to quit looking for any messiah other than the one that's inside us. Because in the final analysis, we are all we have. You know, we can unite as a UIC. If we can be so fortunate to get a UIC government, we can purge the pharmaceutical industry's power over this nation. But we have a ways to go before we do that. But
so tell me something. You just mentioned the UIC a while ago, and I see you're wearing your UIC shirt. What is it that you like about the UIC?
Well, it's all about personal liberty. That's I think I opened my Facebook one day 5 years ago, and there you were talking about the form of government I always espoused and always believed in. And now I'm realizing right here in Jamaica, we can have this. And heck yeah, I'm on board. I've been with you since 2018. And I'm going to stay with you. And we're going to ride this through to the end. And we're going to fix this mess.
Thank you. So yeah, I would love for you to get to the part in the history lesson where you bring us to the mask mandates and tell us about that.
Okay. Talk about the mask. First of all, masks were designed for doctors to wear so they don't accidentally cough into an open wound. They don't wear them to protect them from any disease. In fact, it's all published, the truth about masks. They only filtered particulate down to 3 microns. The alleged virus is 1 or 2 microns in size. So you're breathing it in all day long while you're allowing them to make a fool out of you with that stupid mask. I'm in the supermarket the other day. There's still maybe 2 or 3 people in there wearing masks. Thank God it's not a lot more, but these people are so brainwashed they can't wait to roll up their sleeve for the next injection. It's awful the way our minds have been taken over, and some people will kill you if you try to expose that truth. So we have a problem. We have a real problem today, and if we really want to stop this, the first thing we have to do is look in the mirror and say, hey, dude, or hey, lady, how are we going to stop? How am I going to do it? Because there comes a point where there's no longer a we, right? Yeah, we as a UIC government can effectuate some great change. But right now, if they came after us today, it's you against the world. It's not the UIC or anybody else. You got to have a plan. Now, I know they're going to come for me, and I know they're ultimately going to get me. And all I'm going to say is, Mr. President, when they do, I'm going to take them with me. Who wants a piece of it first? Let's run.
I want to read something for our audience that I saw in one of your publications that you sent out. It's entitled The Dangers of Masks in School. Wake Up, Get Up, Stand Up. I just want to read a little bit of this to our audience so they can hear. It says, please forward this information to every parent. One second. It says, please forward this information to every parent, teacher, principal, PTA you can possibly reach. We're all we have. We have to stop this. Now they're coming for our children. And the article says, wake up, get up, stand up. Schools have reopened for the new school year, and once again, our children are required to wear masks for no scientific reasons whatsoever. Masks can only filter particulate down to 3 microns in size. The reputed virus is 1 or 2 microns in size. Masks are dangerous for our children because they force the child to inhale some of what he has just exhaled. Studies have demonstrated reduced vital lung capacity and a buildup of bacterial excellence back into the child's lungs. Cognitive development is harmed by the masks. Masks increase respiration rates and repetitive oxygen deprivation, which, when prolonged with moisture and spit, can impede frontal lobe development. The frontal lobe is the seat of intellect. Masks are making our children sick. Masks don't protect from viruses. Rather, they are a ritual of control. The carrot is the vaccine. If the child accepts the COVID-19 vaccine, then he can take off his masks. Could you please comment on that for us?
Yeah, it's just really about control. They got you in the mask. They know they can look at you and they know you're buying the whole paradigm. And by the way, what are we trying to protect ourselves from? A virus? Do our viewers know about Dr. Tom Callan, Dr. Andrew Kaufman, Dr. Samantha Bailey? These are medical doctors and scientists who've blown the lid off the whole criminal fraud of virology. Now, SARS-CoV-2, it's a 30,000 DNA pair genome. And they tried to show you a picture of it on the news every night for the first 2 years of the scamdemic, that scary looking ball with spikes sticking out of it. Tell them what it is. It's a CGI. It's a computer generated image. It has no more validity than that 30,000 DNA pair genome of alleged SARS-CoV-2 virus that only exists in the computer of the guy who fed it the coordinates. It's a big scam. Wake up and let's put an end to it.
Yeah. So what is the virus really?
You look at these slides they show you, they say they isolate it. And there's always 2 or 3 different organelles in there. But you see those little round things, little hairy little legs coming out of it, and they can move around. What are they? They're exosomes. They're part of your body's vacuum cleaner system, cleaning up debris. They're nothing to be afraid of. Rockefeller Medicine has sold us an evil bill of goods. We have to wake up, as tiny as we are, against this Goliath that we're fighting against, and realizing he's all smoke and mirrors, and the day we can see through it, we can pull it down.
So, Dr. Harvey, the real issue before us, that I'm seeing 2 things evolving out of this. 1 is a desire to control us, and 2, it's a desire to control the population of us. So it's the control. Right. So how we think, what we eat, how we live, what medicines we take. So we're a part of a commercial cog. So it's really slavery, but in a more modern form. The whips and chains are not obvious. They're built into laws and religion and medicine. They're built into regulations. They're built into nice sounding politicians saying nice things. But in the end, it's all a trap. It's like you leading something into a trap, and then you spring the trap door and you have them for life. And at the end of the day, there are some people apparently who are very concerned about the population of the world and wanting to make sure they keep that in a particular number base. I remember growing up as a kid, I used to hear back in my young days talks about overpopulation, which is what led to part of the one-child policy in China, which is now a nightmare for China. So the government passed laws against people's free will and restricted them from having children, causing many abortions, causing many children to be mistreated, causing families to focus on having boys instead of girls, and created a number of sociological problems in the Chinese nation. And today they're suffering because of bad government policy, which should never happen because no government should have the right to dictate to you how many children you can have. That's your choice to make. Am I not correct?
Absolutely. Government has this unquenchable thirst for power and control. And how do they get us? They have to get us to believe in whatever nonsensical idea, and they're able to do it because they have the best psychiatrists in the world and know how to sell it to us.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, we go to our graves never realizing that belief has always been the trap for the human race. There's only one God. He's right inside of you. How's he going to guide you through life? That's the one true God. That's the one you want to listen to.
I mean,
he's not out there.
We in the UIC teach people that when it comes on to religion, it's your right to choose whatever you want to choose. However, it's very important for you to understand when you're being duped. So we encourage you to think, to reason, to analyze, and not just to follow what you're being told because somebody in a lab coat or somebody in a jacket and a tie or somebody in a priest's gown tells you that this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to think for yourself and reason carefully so that you know what you're getting into. Now, we have been duped on so many levels. We've been duped on the religious level. We've been duped on the legal and political level. We've been duped on the medical level to the point where we're actually eating ourselves into an early grave. We're actually eating things that are destroying us as opposed to eating things that will empower and enable us. And we're doing this because our political leaders and our business elite tell us that this is what we're supposed to do. The UIC is here to try to change that. But very importantly, we're about to head into another phase of this pandemic trickery. And that's what we want to bring people's attention to today, that we're going to enter a new phase. We watched earlier, and I'm going to play it again for our viewers. We watched earlier where President Trump was saying that they're going to bring it back for electoral purposes to achieve their goals. So if they want certain people in office, they will do whatever they're going to do to get that in office. The same thing here in Jamaica. Our system is designed for the Prime Minister and his team to look for the best moment to manipulate us into an election and then to win that election by any means necessary, which is why he lied to us and said he was going to bring us fixed election dates, but we don't have fixed election dates. Instead, what we have is a fixed commitment to the two-party corruption, which is funded by the SOJ oligarchs. What do you say to that, sir?
Yeah, well, remember, he's talking about fixed election. Didn't he call the election a whole year early? You know, under the direction and guidance of Bill Gates, who else? So he could get that injection of the bioweapon in everybody's arms. How evil. Now, here's my challenge to Prime Minister Holness. He is, no doubt, one of the 193 prime ministers and or presidents who signed that agreement with the World Health Organization through their Global Preparedness Monitoring Board featuring the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I challenge Andrew Holness to bring that document out and show it to the public. The documents that he signed, completely unredacted. The one they produced for the Polish House of Representatives, every word in it was redacted. We want to see what he signed. We supposedly elected him to lead us to greener pastures 3 years ago. Let's see, Mr. Holness, what it is that you signed. And you need, I mean, there has to be some higher law than the prime minister here. In every country, most constitutions require the military to seize power when the president or the prime minister commits treason against his own people. The statistic I would like to see, not how many people tested positive for what? I like to see how many people died from the mandatory injections. That's the statistic.
You're not going to track that. So they're not tracking how many persons died from the injection, and you're not tracking how many persons are disabled by the injection. They're not tracking hello. They're not tracking any side effects. They're focused on tracking what supports their propaganda machinery. But let's listen to Bill Gates. He's telling us that is coming back, and they're going to be ready. They want us to be ready for it again. Let's listen to him now.
We need to be prepared for the next pandemic. We're not prepared for COVID-19, so we need to do better. And we need to be committed to make sure all tools get out to everyone in the world. China's expertise and resources and manufacturing capacities will help us meet those needs. We need to be prepared for the next pandemic.
There you have it. We need to be prepared for the next pandemic. So they're drilling it into our minds, into our heads. We need to be prepared. There's more coming, and Bill Gates and company has the solution. And the solution is to give up your freedom. The solution is to trust us and do with yourself. Give us your body. Give us your economy. Give us 100% control over your lives, because that is the only way that we can survive this new pandemic or the climate change or any other new idea they bring up and tell us that this is what we must do if we want to survive. Lay down our lives, give up our right to think or freedom of choice or freedom of speech. We must allow them to say to us, listen, let's not listen to anybody who is saying something else. Let's turn them off social media. Let's keep them off of traditional media. Let's silence them. Just like what they're doing with the UIC in Jamaica right now. There's a commitment to keeping the UIC away from the Jamaican people, even though we are a registered, legal political party in this country. They have ensured that even in their own reports, they avoid mentioning that Jamaica has a third political party and the name of that party is the UIC. They make sure to avoid that. And the news media doesn't carry it unless they're going to tell them, here are the anti-vaxxers, because they've programmed people's mind to say, if you are questioning what they're injecting us with, what they're injecting our children with, you're bad. Anybody who questions the status quo, you're bad, you're marginalized. And so the UIC is saying, no, we need freedom of speech. We need to allow people to share their views and ideas. Let us hear the other man's side and allow people to agree or to disagree or to make their own choices. What do you say to that?
Put everything out on the table and let people make up their own mind. That's what they're terrified of doing. You know, you have to blame the media maybe even more than the politicians. I think one of them would stand up and say, hey, my mother took those shots and now she's dead, right? Mm-hmm. How about Michael Sharp, TVJ's news anchor? He came on television, rolled up his sleeve. We all watched him take the injection with a big smile. And then moments later, he was rushed to the hospital with an adverse reaction. And we have somebody in our group sent me that original JNN report where it's established he was taken to the hospital right after a bad reaction to the injection. And within 15 minutes, that portion of that story was scrubbed. So it just made it look like he, went to the hospital for any other reason than an injection. I mean, look what they're doing to our minds. This has to be adjudicated either in the real courts or the courts of the people. Maybe we need to set up our own courts and say, that's it. We're going to pass sentence on all you criminals who are trying to kill us.
Yeah, I mean, it really blows my mind at the how much the media, we know the media is owned and controlled by the same people who fund the two parties, right? And that's the problem. When you have a society which is built on the model which we have right now, a model that says a few very wealthy, rich corporations are able to buy two political parties and offer them to us as options, control the narrative through the media, and then gets us to vote for one or the other, and have the power to silence those who disagree or those who want to show an alternative position. That is a real travesty. It's really very unjust. Of course, it's undemocratic as they talk about democracy. But you know what? Unfortunately, after 80 years under these two colonial parties, we now know without a shadow of a doubt that we cannot and we should not ever again trust them. We cannot trust these two parties to keep us safe. We cannot trust them to give us a clean environment. We We cannot trust them to maintain an orderly environment. We cannot trust them to create a Jamaica where we can live, earn, and retire with dignity. And we cannot trust them with our liberty. It would be foolish to expect them to do now for us what they have not done in the last 80 years. And that is why I'm so adamant that we need to tell them it's time up. We don't even tell them. We may want to, there are lots of people who they believe so strongly in getting rid of the current prime minister and the current government that they're willing to not fight for real change, but to simply switch to the side that if they were to think about it, it's going to create the same outcome. Yeah. No matter what we may want them to do for us, they will never ever do it because they have no reason to do it. They're committed, 100% committed to the colonial masters and to the PSOJ oligarch. COVID, more than anything else, provided us a very, very conclusive set of evidence that we cannot trust a government under either of these two parties with our life, with our economy, with our children, or with their education. They have demonstrated to us clearly in every one of these areas that they cannot be trusted. The record shows that they cannot say to their colonial masters, no, we're not going to do this. They cannot say. They cannot protect us from criminals, whether in our country or from outside. They cannot achieve an economy which is bottom up, which makes sure that the smallest man at the bottom have a real chance of getting up to a decent level. They cannot protect us from artificial inflation because they're a part of the monetary system that induces that. They cannot protect us from exchange rate manipulation because they in fact are funded by people who benefit from that. We cannot expect them to extricate Jamaica from a monetary system that is devilish, that is demonic, and which is robbing the people of their purchasing power. They cannot, all they can do is make pretty speeches, make great promises, announce grand initiatives. But when you do the analysis, one thing is very clear. No matter what they tell us during election time, at the end of the day, they're going to let us down, sell us out, and leave us holding the bag. What do you say to that, Dr. Harvey?
Yeah, well, it's the two-party system. If we could just understand what it really is. We've been, since the dawn of civilization, we have been dominated by a never-ending series of elaborately contrived black magic rituals and constructs. What's black magic? Look it up. You'll be diverted with explanations about spells, potions, and even an unnatural act with a goat. And there are spells to be sure, but what is black magic? Here it is, Mr. Patterson. It appears as all that is wholesome on the surface. And when you pull it back, you smell the rotten stench of its satanic origins. And they use this construct called the duality of man. It's an evil black magic construct. That's why you have a two-party system. It's really a one-party. And look how they use this duality of man to divide and conquer us. Rich versus poor, black versus white, men versus women. There's no end to it.
Yeah, there's always division.
Once we learn to see the dirty trick, it has no power anymore. We set ourselves free, but we got to grow our own brain and get there. Nobody else can do it for us.
Well, it's very, it's an uphill battle because they get to train our brains, don't they? I mean, the government controls our education system. So what our children learn in schools are determined by what our government dictates they should learn in school. Their parents learn the same foolishness, and so their parents will continue to encourage that at home. If you go out into the society, the institutions are designed to propagate the same sets of lies and misinformation. So we're fairly outnumbered, Dr. Harvey. It's an uphill battle that we're fighting. We see that here on the ground, as a UIC. I mean, you have seen how many internal battles we've had to fight. People who join us and tell us that they really believe in liberty and they believe in freedom and they believe what we're talking about, and then they turn around and stab us in the back and seek to tear us down. So it's a very, very hard battle we're fighting. How do we win this battle?
Well, I tell you, we have to open up our minds. If everybody in this room right now goes to whatreallyhappened.com every day for your news and look at all those incredible exposés, and they will take you to BitChute. It's the antithesis of YouTube, which is tightly controlled. BitChute has all these incredible expose videos. Our people need to tune into this stuff and watch these videos every day. And then the more of us who see it, the more of us will see it, because it'll filter upwards through society. They're raining it down on us. We're going to rain it right back up until they drown in their own you-know-what.
Yeah, I saw the I saw, just to give you just a sidetrack here, I saw the Prime Minister just recently talking about a new stretch of road from Maypen to Williamsfield. You know, they've just created a new highway, and he was boasting about it. This highway was funded on borrowed money from China, and was built by Chinese engineers and some Jamaican workers. And he said that we don't have enough engineers here in Jamaica so they had to use a majority of Chinese engineers. Now, I study engineering here in Jamaica in the 1990s, and every year we're graduating engineers in Jamaica. So why don't we have enough engineers in Jamaica? It's very, very simple, very simple. After we train these engineers in Jamaica, because our economy is so lousy, they migrate to another country. And then we have to import the Chinese and borrow the money from the Chinese to build this road that we're going to boast about. And this road, most Jamaicans will not be able to afford it to drive on it. So they're going to still drive on the side roads, which gradually will even be worse than they are now, while our tax dollars would have gone into paying off a debt for a road that we will not be driving on. So who will be driving on it? The rich, those of us who have more money, more disposable income, which will be the richer class of people, will be on it. So here it is. We're going to clap the Prime Minister. Our poor people, the very poor people, are going out there to vote and say, yay, shower, shower, or power, when it was the power people who did it. They're going to be excited about something for which they're not going to benefit, but they're going to pay. So they have to pay back the loan. And they pay for the loan in so many ways. They pay for it in bad roads because the money that should have fixed their roads now goes to pay for the loan. They pay for it in lack of security because the money that was to pay the police officers and to equip the police officers will now go to paying off the loan. You're going to pay for it in bad education because the teachers who should have been well paid and given the teaching aids and the quality classroom to teach, those monies now go to pay off the loan. So all of this. Now, can you trust such a government with your life? Can you trust them now when they say to you that this is for your own good? We're going to now take from the same colonial powers who have ripped us off in various different ways, and whether they come as Spaniards or British or Chinese or even our own Jamaican politicians, we cannot trust any of them, but we're to trust them with our lives, with something as important as our lives, and we should not talk about it. We should be marginalized and blocked from questioning it. We should just simply accept it and take it when they cannot even manage our roads. They cannot maintain our engineers. They cannot cause our teachers to want to stay here. They cannot cause our children to leave school. 70% of our kids fail every year. How can we trust them with our health, Dr. Harvey, when we can't trust them with basic things like fixing and maintaining our roads?
Exactly. And if we come away with nothing else from this discussion tonight, we certainly know you can't trust the government. What else is new? That anybody would believe a word that has ever come out of any government is staggering to me, right?
Absolutely. I mean, Marcus Garvey said it well. He said, any leadership that would lead you to depend upon another race is a leadership that will lead you into slavery. And what he meant by that is, if you don't have the best political leadership for any country is one that respects the sovereignty of the citizens. It's one that says each and every one of you are a sovereign entity, and the only justifiable purpose of government is to protect that sovereignty. Nothing else. That's the fundamental right, not right, but fundamental responsibility of government is to protect your right to your life, to your liberty, and your property. And any government which cannot do that is unworthy of the name. What do you say?
And if we win the day, we're going to be the only government on this planet that will bring that to fruition for our people. That's why we have to get this done. Everybody watching this program tonight, we have to dig a little bit deeper. I'm going to do the same thing. It's tough. It's a tough economy. We got to get the funds together to support our valiant candidates so they can get the word out and attract more candidates. We can do this. We have a window of opportunity. And we get up off of it and get it done. We can get this thing done before a-hole Ness calls the next election.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Harvey. And I want to say thanks to all of you who are here tonight who have joined us. This has been a very good conversation. Please do not take anything for granted. Pay careful attention to what is being done. Do not allow them to trick you once again. Do not vote for any of these two colonial parties. Help us to build the People's Party, the United Independence Congress. Help us to elect our candidates. Help us to defend your right to your life, to your liberty, and to your property. One Jamaica, stronger together.
Stronger together.
Have a good night, Dr. Harvey. Take care. All the best.
Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.